What's going on, everybody, and welcome back. Today we're going to be building a spice rack for my wife. She's been up my ass to get this thing done for quite some time now, and I've been too busy driving mud cricket around and car shows and fishing. So a lot of shit's getting in the way. So at any rate, we're going to knock this out hopefully fairly quick. So I have a couple of these tongue and groove boards floating around. The previous owner of the house kind of left a bunch of these behind. This one, I don't know, be good for shelves, I guess, but of the spice rack, but there's a couple pieces missing. That's okay though. I've got some other ones that are intact. My house was built in 1900, so it's kind of like an old farmhouse, and I figured these boards are actually for my mudroom. The wall on the mudroom, and I figured that would be a nice touch to add these on the wall for the spice rack. So a little bit of quick math. The large ones are actually 8 inches tall. We're going to add an inch, just enough to get your finger underneath it and kind of tilt it forward and out. So I think this is going to work out great. But anyway, finished product, 24 inches wide, 22¼ inches high. So that's where we're going. So, most of my boards had some pretty big chunks missing out of them. This is the last one that I actually had a piece to get out of it. And this is it. But you will notice, for some reason, this one, I don't know if you can see that or not, is just a tad taller than the other one. So I think what's going to happen is we're going to leave this one as the top. So it's kind of hidden, and we'll kind of bury it, or at least I think that's the plan. If we turn these over, and I set these together, you can see how that creates just that little bit of gap. And I think if it's on the top, it won't be so noticeable. I have plans of putting some rope in this groove as well after we're done. We're going to get some glue on these and staple them together real quick, and we'll go from there. So before I go much further, we've got this little jig just to kind of keep everything really close to as 45 as possible while I staple them together. I am going to put some Gorilla wood glue in that cap and then use the acid brush to dip it, brush it on both sides, and then clamp them together, shoot some staples in them, and just repeat until we have a box. All right, so we have our corners. This is going to be the bottom. I think that looks good. And this looks good. And our little screw up, because this board is a little thicker, kind of threw everything off. So I'll have to trim that out and trim out this little corner here. But right now it's exactly 24 inches from corner to corner. So I've got to cut my 2 shelves, and off to the saw we go. So we have both of our boards cut, and now all we have to do is set them in there like so. They're pretty snug. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna have to glue these in, and that's quite all right, but we're gonna put them in place, shoot some staples in them, and I have a plan for the bar that goes across the front to hold them in, so stand by. I apologize for the mess, but I've got to do a small lift on this wire. This is 3/32 filler rod, stainless steel, some 316 Anyway, it's 3/32, and I drilled a 3/32 hole in there. I had to notch that out. I have yet to do this side. I wanted to show you guys what I did. Basically drilled a hole straight down as far as the drill bit would let me, and then drilled a hole on the side. Then I'll use a razor knife to notch that out, and that's gonna look like this. And afterwards, I have this rope that I'm going to be putting all the way around, and then that'll just kind of cover it. So that's basically what this one's gonna look like. All the other ones are just 90s. I still have to notch it out, but it'll be a straight shot. Once it's bent, it's a straight shot across, just to keep things from falling off. So, but this one, you can see that the top of that, it's not even touching, and it would be too hard to get them out. So with that little bit of space in there, it should be able to lift them out pretty good. This is the rod all the way in. So now we have all 3 wires in. Those are pretty tight. This one, not so much, but that's okay because they still fit in there a little snug, so it allows a little bit of movement to get them out. So now we're gonna do the rope. This piece here is missing, so we kind of have to build that up a little bit with hot glue. It is on the bottom, so I'm not too concerned with it. But I've also notched these here, because this rope is gonna sit up here, and I wanted to be able to terminate this here, like so. Once this is glued in, I can take the razor knife and kind of shave it a little, and then when we glue the piece across the top of it, it'll lay flat down inside the hole, and it'll be nice and uniform, or at least I hope that's the outcome. So I've started. This one's kind of glued in place. I left it a little long so I could kind of shave it to get it to tuck up underneath the other one. But we're gonna speed this up. I'm gonna glue this in, glue the next one in, and then once those are nice and tight, we'll get started on the rest of it. So here's where we at so far. I did trim this down a little bit, and I'm hoping when I set that rope on there, I can kind of get this to sit flat, and the rope will actually sit right on top of it, so it doesn't have a lump in it. What you saw me filling earlier is that right there. This is the bottom, so shouldn't be all that bad. I think once it's solidified, it won't be so noticeable. But those were the pieces of board we're actually missing, if that makes any sense, where the groove part was broken. I didn't have much of a choice there, but so far so good. I'm kind of liking it. I think that's gonna work out good. So there is the square knot at the base, centered. It's done, with the exception that I totally forgot to put in the board up here to mount to the wall. So we're gonna staple that in real quick, and then we're done. And then we get to go hang it.